This week, I'm going to be following up on the series about playing time. So we're doing a 4-part video series, as I mentioned last week in the first video. And last week we covered the number one reason that you might not be getting the playing time that you think you deserve, or maybe you're not getting any playing time. We covered that number one reason last week. This week, we're going to go into the number one thing that you can be doing in order to earn more playing time or get yourself off the bench. So let's jump in. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help you work on your mental game, sharing the mindset tools and habits that are going to help you take your game to the next level, both on and off the court. So today is the day that we're going to move on from last week. We're doing this series on playing time, using the word time is kind of an acronym, and if you were with me last week, if you weren't, go back and watch the first video after this. But we covered the number one reason that you might not be getting the playing time that you think you deserve, or maybe the number one reason that you're not even getting off the bench, and that was the T in time, and that was trust. That your coach doesn't trust you enough to be on the floor, or to be on the floor at that critical time of the game, maybe the end of the game, that you'd like to be in there. So that's what we covered last week. And I got a funny story. Actually, a friend of mine called me up after he watched that video. And he said, I was waiting for the T. I was waiting to see what it was. I was convinced that it was for talent, but it wasn't for talent. And I hope last week's video pointed out to you that there are ways that you can earn trust from your coach and get on the floor, even if you're not the most talented player on the team, if you're still working on some of those finer skill sets that might get you even more playing time. But you can get on the floor, you can earn more playing time by earning your coach's trust, not being the most talented player on the floor. It's great if you have talent, don't get me wrong. Talent helps, talent works. But gaining your coach's trust, that's what the T was for, trust. And speaking of trust, if you have not already downloaded my Champion Intangibles, I highly recommend that you download them. It's 8 intangible skills that you can work on. It gives you kind of some ideas of how to work on these skills that will really stand out to your coach. So if you're looking to stand out, if you're looking to get on the floor more, if you're looking to earn that trust with your coach, be sure to download Coach Dave's Champion Intangibles. I'll put the link below, but if you're on the podcast or don't see the link below, simply go to www.hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. So, to jump into this week, and what does the I stand for in the word time? So I know you're on the edge of your seat. Last week I probably kept the T from you a little too long in the video. So this week we're going to jump right into what the I stands for, and this is the number one thing that you can do to earn more playing time. And the I stands for invest. And what do I mean by invest? I mean, you have to invest as a player in your own individual development. And why do I use the word invest? Okay, we can kind of take a page from the business world, right? Or personal finances. I know a lot of you guys are young and maybe not thinking in those terms as far as investing, but in the investing world, there's investors, and then there's like day traders, right? And there's people that are more of gamblers with their money. And the difference is that investors are constantly contributing to a long-term goal. Okay? In the money world, they might be investing on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis, but it's a consistent investment that they're looking to grow into something, into a reward down the road. They're not constantly, this week I'm going to invest and next week maybe not, and I'm going to take a month off from investing. They are constantly investing for their nest egg down the road. Well, you as a player can do that same thing, right? I mean, to give you an idea of what day traders do, they have a little knowledge of what they're doing. They might, invest in a stock or invest in something, and they're looking for a quick turnaround. They want the reward right away. And in this world that we live in today, I see a lot of people want that instant gratification, instant reward. I mean, our mobile devices kind of train us, right? Like, let's look for instant gratification, instant reward. Let's, scroll through and see something, instantly. Well, the same goes for investing, whether you're investing in money or investing in your own individual development as a basketball player. And so what we want to do is contribute on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis, consistently invest in yourself, okay? Invest in yourself as a player, because you might say, well, hey, I'm investing in myself. I go to practice. I do everything the coach tells me to do. I, might, do a little shooting in the summer to keep my shot up, to keep my shot sharp. Maybe even play on a club team, an AAU team. Boy, we travel, we play all these games. And I would say that that is a portion of investing in yourself, but you really need to look at developing yourself as an individual player in a number of different areas. And we're going to go deep into some of those areas today in this video so that you know, how do I invest in myself? How do I consistently do that so that, and we got to have a long-term outlook on it. Investors have a long-term outlook. They don't have a short-term outlook. They don't go do, a few workouts over the summer and go, oh, maybe I'm going to get some playing time, right? They actually consistently invest in themselves, and they're focused on that process of their development, and the playing time comes. The playing time comes in time. The only way that it doesn't work is if you quit. If you quit investing in yourself. So I would really encourage you to have a plan, and we'll talk about some of those things that you can put in your plan, but have a plan for your own individual development. So that doesn't mean that you have to do it all alone. And that doesn't mean you need to spend a lot of money. When we talk about investing, I used money as an analogy, but it doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money on your individual development, and it doesn't mean you have to do it alone. When I was a player, I didn't really have the resources, the money to play on club teams or an AAU team. I also didn't have the knowledge to seek out help. I didn't necessarily have a parent at the time that could, had the ability or the time to help me to work on my game. I didn't have a trainer to help me invest in myself. I didn't really have the knowledge to go up to a coach and ask them, hey, can you meet with me consistently and can we work on these specific things? Or what can I do individually? I'll tell you what I did, what I could afford at the time. I could afford a book of basketball drills. So I bought this book of basketball drills, and I personally, as a freshman, sophomore, junior in high school, would work on those drills, just kind of, it was the days of books. I didn't, now you have so many resources. You have YouTube like this, you have, video, you have a number of different resources that you can reach out to that might explain a little bit better than the book I was using, but it helped me, and that was my way. I knew I had to invest in myself as an individual player to earn that playing time. I just didn't have the greatest guidance on how to accomplish that. So this is hopefully that guidance for you. So you don't have to do it alone. Find a parent. Maybe you have a trainer. Maybe it's an AAU coach. Maybe it's your coach at high school. Maybe it's an assistant coach. Maybe it's just a friend of the family. Somebody that can help you. Maybe it's a teammate. A great way to invest in yourself individually while helping a teammate is get together and work on these things together. So what are some of those things that you can do to invest in your own individual development? Well, we talked about some last week. We talked about skill development on the court. And specifically last week, we talked about skills that would stand out and get you on the court right away. So what were those? Stand out as a defensive player. So you can work on your defense. You can work on your defense as far as your stance work, your footwork, your knowledge of the defensive schemes that your coach is running, things of that nature. So really you're strengthening in order to, get quicker, get in front of people and stay in front of people. So there's a lot that you can do on the defensive front in order to work on that skill. What we talked about, limiting turnovers, working on your ball handling, working on your passing, your catching, understanding, the offensive schemes that your coach is running so that you make great decisions on the court. So that's another area that I'd highly recommend that you invest in yourself. We talked about a mistake response and getting better at your response after a mistake, whether it's on the court or off the court, but getting better at your response and increasing your energy and making up for that mistake right away. That is something that needs to be worked on. That is not something that you can just say, hey, I want a better mistake response and I'm going to stop hanging my head. I'm going to stop looking at my coach. I'm going to stop looking at the bench. I'm going to stop looking in the stands. No, that is something that's a habit that you've got to work on and create. So those are hard skills that you can work on. What are some others? Shooting. I kind of minimized shooting last week when we were talking about gaining your coach's trust, but, becoming a better shooter, becoming a better finisher, working on pass fakes, working on pump fakes, working on, all those skill sets that you don't have a chance to work on. You say, hey, I go to practice and I go to AAU practice and we go play games. But think about what happens. You're about to start your season. Think about what happens. You typically have kind of a tryout week. You might be working on some skills there. And a lot of good coaches work on skill sets throughout the year. But the majority of the time the games come fast and furious, right? So you've got to install the offense, install the defense, work on the basis of those, the nuances of your offense and your defense on a team. Then you start scouting other teams and you're running scout teams and your practice is so much more involved than the individual development that you need to do both in the off season, but I think also in the season. You need to work on your individual skill sets because there's not enough time for that. Even in AAU programs, yes, in the practices, there might be some individual skill work that goes on, but you're preparing for games. And a lot of AAU time is traveling and playing in games on the road and things of that nature. So there's not a lot of time for individual skill development once you are on a team and going through your season. Coaches try and fit in as much individual skill development as they can, but that doesn't mean there's enough time for it. So you need to, as a player, take the responsibility, whether it's just you or whether you're getting help, to invest in those hard skills. Another area that you need to invest in, and this is a huge area that a lot of players don't invest in enough, boosting your game IQ, right? And what does that mean? That means understanding the game, understanding what exactly is tempo. How do I control tempo in a game? What's a good shot? What's a bad shot? There's a bunch of things that when I work with a player from a mindset perspective, we talk about understanding these nuances of the game so that you have a better grasp on the game. And therefore, you are almost like a coach on the floor, right? You can be an extension of your coach on the floor. You don't have to be a point guard to be an extension of your coach on the floor, to have a great grasp of the game and boost your basketball IQ. Another great way to boost your basketball IQ is watching film. You know, a lot of coaches will take you aside and you'll watch film to kind of look at maybe what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and that's great. But as well, if your coach isn't doing that, ask them, can we watch film together? Can we clip out some moments where, you know, maybe my footwork isn't quite right on this, you know, on defense? Maybe that's why you're getting beat. Maybe you need to work on your footwork. Maybe you need to understand the scheme better. But you can also watch film of other teams and other games to point out, once you start boosting this basketball IQ, you can start pointing out to yourself, oh yeah, look at that, they're out of position. Or, boy, that was a bad decision. Or, boy, they shouldn't have drilled to the corner and gotten trapped. Whatever the case might be. But boost your basketball IQ. There's a number of different ways that you can work on that. And again, you're not in it alone. Ask your coach, ask a parent, ask a friend, you know, work on it with a teammate. You can leverage these contacts, these people in your life to help you boost your basketball IQ. So, you know, if you downloaded my intangibles, you're working on the intangibles, you're working on your hard skills, the ones that are going to get you noticed by the coach and get on the floor and expand your playing time. You're working on your basketball IQ. So what's the last and you know, I would even say one of the most important elements to invest in yourself, and that's your fitness. And I don't just mean physical fitness, while that's important. You know, physical fitness can be your conditioning, your weight training, your flexibility, maintaining your body in a fashion that you can make it through the season without, you know, nagging injuries and things of that nature. Also, that you can be prepared, you know, physically for the game, and that can get you on the floor. But when I talk about fitness, one of the most overlooked elements is your mental fitness, okay? And what do I mean by mental fitness? Investing in your joy of the game, in having fun in playing basketball, in having fun in watching basketball, enjoying watching a great game, whether that is, you know, right now on television is the U.S. National team that's been playing exhibitions leading up to their international competition. And I've loved watching those games, not to break it down, not to critique, not to get better. I mean, all those things you can do, but just to enjoy watching the game, enjoy playing the game, bringing joy to everything you do. And let me tell you something, you bring joy, you exude the joy that you have for the game of basketball, you'll stand out. You'll stand out to your teammates. It'll make you a better teammate. It'll stand out to coaches. It'll get you noticed by coaches. So, you know, your joy of the game, your confidence. We mentioned confidence a little bit last week on how not to confuse or think, you know, confidence is equal to playing time. Really working on building your confidence from a really good foundation. And these are some of the ways that you can do it, is by investing. One of the best ways to build your confidence is always investing in your individual development in each of these categories that I'm talking about. Your motivation, you know, it's great to set goals, and I work with players on setting goals, but setting goals that motivate you to show up every day as your best self for your practice, for your teammates, for your team, whether you're on the floor or not. And if you build your goals in the right way, whether those are competing for a championship, competing for MVP of the league, or simply being the best teammate that you can be. That's one of the best compliments you can get from a teammate or a coach or a parent is, boy, they're one of the best teammates we've ever had. So those are really working on your fitness, both physically and mentally, are really important. So I covered a lot today, but investing in yourself over the long term and not focusing so much on the goal of attaining playing time, but letting that happen and really focusing on the process of investing in your intangible skills, your hard basketball skills, your basketball IQ, and both your physical and mental fitness will help you achieve your goals of getting off the bench maybe, more playing time, achieving those long-term goals for your team. So, covered a lot. Next week, so today we know that the T stands for trust, the I, invest, and next week we will be diving into the M and continuing the series of playing time, why you might not be getting it, and how to get on the floor more. So until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and most importantly, play together, and I'll see you next week.